Alright, so I want to do inlays here to cover up all the open part. So I put in a 2x4 that I ripped in half and then planed it down to the width of this. I'm going to cut some strips now, 5/8 inch, that will cover the inside edge here. Lay the board, the 1/4 inch ply board up against that, and then seal that in with silicone and then another 5/8 inch strip there. And I used 1/4 inch pocket hole screws and 1 1/4 inch depth on these. Just play it by ear. I have these kind of 2x4s planed down a little bit differently just to reduce a little bit of weight because this thing is getting heavy. Alright, I know the light's kind of bad, but I cut my backer board down to width, so that will go in behind that trim piece. I've decided to just go with the one face trim. I'll stain that, and then that will actually be held in with screws from behind with this, with some silicone in that. So instead of having two of these, one in the back, one in the front, that kind of pinch that board, I'm just going to put these in the front. It cuts down on labor, and labor's getting expensive, so do that. Get that tacked in with glue, and also we'll throw in some brad nails just to hold it in place. Get that clamped in, but first I got to stain all these. I'm going to do a little bit of contrast here with probably that darker red mahogany to tie into the wall there back behind. I know you're not going to see this much, but if you're at kind of the level looking into the van from the back, you'll be able to see it, and I might as well make it look good because I'm insane. So there's the dry fit. Looks pretty nice actually, like that. Kind of like the white, but it doesn't go really with the van colors, unfortunately. So I'm going to do those inside more of a red. It's like a golden pecan. Do the outside of the golden pecan. Do that trim piece in the red mahogany. Alright, I got all the pieces stained up, so now I'm going to throw some glue on each of these pieces. They're a little bit wonky just because of some knots and stuff like that and just how thin they're cut, but I'm going to throw some brad nails in as I go along just to kind of hold it in place while that glue sets. So that should be good. Probably throw some clamps in too just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure the brad nails 1 5/8 inch will go deep enough into here so that it will bite in enough and not kind of move around. So that's kind of how it's going to look. I'm just insetting it just a little bit just to give it some depth, just to where kind of these 2x4s round off and become flat. So it just gives it a little more depth and contrast with the front of the box. Okay, so we're just going to start with the bottom one here. Just going to lay a bead, wood glue. I didn't stain the underside just because the wood glue doesn't adhere as well if you are trying to glue stain surfaces. Just getting that kind of lined up to that rounded edge. One thing I didn't really take into account is this is not fitting in there very well. So so we got that side done. Just kind of have it clamped up right now in one of the lower lying spots just to keep it tight. So now we'll go ahead, move on, and do this side. Alright, so now I'm ready to drop the panels into the back. So I'm going to line the back with silicone on both sides, kind of place that in there, and then I'm going to pre-drill and countersink each hole just because these strips are so fragile if you're just screwing into them. I have number 6 by 5/8 inch wood screws, pretty small, but that's just to be safe, not to crack any of this. So we'll just do the one side first, get that silicone, kind of place the board in there, and then go from there. Okay, it's all in there. Got them screwed in the back. And to be honest, I don't even think you need to. I don't even think you need to countersink these. The backboard's so thin that you almost suck it in too much, and it just might not be holding as well if you don't use all of that backer board to hold it in. So I think I'm just going to take off the countersink and just screw it in. And the reason why you put that silicone bead in there is just so that there's no rattling when you're driving. It just kind of provides a buffer point between the wood. Even though it's screwed in, you can have a little loose part unless you put in 1,000 screws. So make sure you get a nice even bead across. I'll probably go over the edges just to create a waterproof seal so that no water or anything gets down in there. Okay, those are in place now. I'm just going to run a bead of silicone on the outside, give that a smooth over with my finger, and that'll stop if there's any water or anything from going down back in there. Okay, well, I threw a layer of poly on it, so I think it's time to go in the van. I can finish up the slats in there. I've got a couple other things I want to do back here as far as putting a closing latch behind it where the wheel well will fall, just to kind of close that up, get a little extra storage space, and be able to rest the cushions down on. So I think this is ready to go in. Alright, got the main bed frame in here now. Made the space back here, so I got to get the ledge that the fold up door is going to be on this back side that will lay flush here and provide just an extra little storage space. But seems like it should be a fairly decent walkway, enough to get through and get the cabinets open and everything if you need. And just testing out the slats, seeing where those will end up, seems like it'll be pretty good too. So got a little bit of work ahead of me now, but at least this is in. It's a kind of a big step, so happy about getting this in here. Okay, well, now I gotta lay this back piece on. So what I did is just threw the level on here, got it all set up back here where it's going to be, lining it up with my lines on the floor, since those are as flush as I could get, just using as a basis point. So I laid this across, just made a mark down below here, and then where I'm going to need to go is down below this to even what I'm going to do with the hinge is where the actual lip is going to set up against. So that'll come down, lay on that lip over here. So that'll kind of cover up these screws when the lid closes, and lay on this 3/4 inch wide piece here by 2 inch. So I got to cut two 2-inch pieces by 3/4 inch. It's just dug fir, and I'll put one on there and then one on there. Okay, so this is where the actual piece is going to lie from the folding drawer piece, or the folding top piece here, and it's going to lie on that. So since I took the level here and measured across to this piece and made the mark here, I have to find the difference between the top of this and here, and then subtract by the width that that door will close down on, and that should make it pretty even across from there to there. So I was thinking about doing this piece first. I think I'm just going to attach that to there, and at least prep this piece. I'll probably have to sand it down a bit, get it a bit more presentable. So I slapped a chalk line down, so I should be able to line up the top with that and fasten that into all of these joists that go up. And I'll probably just use some cabinet screws. So to fasten this piece in, this brace piece, we'll use 1.5-inch cabinet screws just to make sure it gets a good bite, has a good hold, and that should be more than enough. It'll tie in through the 3/4-inch piece on the front and then the 1/2-inch joist on the back. Okay, so for the back of the actual bench, I routed out 1/4 inch by about 5/8, and that's where the backing's going to go. So that'll lay on here like that, and the backing will fall underneath here once I get that all tied in. That'll just add some extra hold down there. So I'll just use, a big piece that's about 1/4 inch width, and that'll slide down up in there, and then I'll just fasten it all to this back side. Since a lot of this you won't see, but it'll just provide some separation between this little cubby hole and then the drawer, so nothing kind of falls back in behind there and gets jammed up. So I've got it clamped on there now, and everything, this is just going to fall underneath all of these hinges, and that'll kind of give me my line going down. Here's that little inset where I'll put the actual board, the backer board in, and then I'm just going to use this little piece here. That's going to fall in there, tie in. Once I close up that whole side, that will kind of be my backer piece. This will allow me to hold in this dividing piece to the back, so that'll fall back in there. Just kind of gives it some separation and just more of a cleaner face. So just like this back support piece, I'm going to throw some stain on that just on the top and exposed part. Just, I guess you'll be able to barely see it, but it's just something I'm trying to keep consistent so there's not a million different colors going on if you are happening to look down in there. Now I'm going to get this set up on my chalk line. I'm going to go in the middle first. So I can pivot it. I just want to get it at the bottom of that chalk line. I'm going to pre-drill. And I'm just using these 1.5-inch cabinet screws to hold it in. And just go through the first one. Get it out the other end at least, and line it up with the hole. Okay. Now I should just be able to level this out and go down the line, I hope. Now that allows me to kind of pivot the piece, get it lined up with the next one. And I'm just running along these screws because I know they're about in the middle. Okay, get that last one in. I have it mostly pushed up against that back wall. I should still be able to slide a panel in there to cover that up. So that should be fine. Look at you. So skilled. What are you doing? Okay, now I got the receiving piece clamped in here. So I think I can fasten this. I'm just going to use those same 1.5-inch cabinets. Go a little bit lower on all of the studs down here and there. And then this is pretty close, but as long as I pre-drill, I think up here I should be fine. So I drew this line just to get it squared up and match it up with the back. That line's all up. I get that under that hinge. So it'll be like that. And this should be ready to go in. So I'm gonna keep that off, get a nice tie-in down in here, keep it kind of flat and flush. Not a lot of room to work in here anymore. And just move on down the line. And this I'm just kind of gauging where that groove is. Try to get as close to that as I can. Suck it down in a little bit on the bottom since it is so close to the top. This will just kind of bring the bottom in. I don't think I'll have too much issue getting that piece slotted in there. If I need to, I can always back these out and go back in. I've just been kind of going off of these hinges, seeing what that distance is, and then halving it. And this is probably overkill, but whatever. In case anything heavy gets set on it, I just want it to be able to hold. Alright, it's all in place. Looks pretty flush. I'll get it pushed up against here and just kind of measure that. This is back end's going to be tricky, of course, because it's curved. So I'm going to have to almost like clamp that on, scribe a line, and cut that with a jigsaw just to line it up with that back portion. This will be flat, but that back portion is going to have to be curved. So let's, maybe we'll get that piece cut in for here and put that into place, get that all tied in. And then we can move on to getting this folding piece on, cut, and put the hinges on. Alright, so I have this scrap piece, and since this whole wall contours, of course, I'm going to have to scribe this section to get that contour cut right on it. So what I did is I just taped a razor blade to the same thickness piece as I have back there, and I'll just run it along the wall and scribe the top of this piece to where I have to cut it. And what I found to be easier is just going backwards with the scribe. Just keeping pressure on this back end. And it's kind of hard to see, but you can see it right there. So I gotta cut along that line. And I'm just gonna use a jigsaw with a clean cut blade to do this. And you just wanna cut on the outside of that mark. So go ahead and shave this down. And then we'll make the final cut, sand everything down. Just gonna mark it with a pencil to make it easier to see. Got it all sanded down, pretty much ready. I'll probably throw just some poly on. I got it all 220 sanded down. Got it lined up over here. With this piece. So that lies flush. So should be ready to go. I can get this polyed and then I can put the hinges on that back piece. I just took the time quick to measure out where all the hinges will go evenly. Try to keep them close to the studs where this back piece goes in, just to give them extra support. There's not going to be a ton of weight ever on this, but just as an added precaution, it helps. For hinges, I just use these 2" by 1 3/8 inch. These screws will go and find into the 1/2" top board. And then for the back, I might go a little bit deeper just because it's a 3/4 inch piece and can go back in, but I think these should be fine. Now I'm just going down the line on the marks, putting in my hinges, and I'm using these Techs on this back one instead, just for a little more, I guess, hold. I'm pre-drilling them though because they're a bit bigger. I don't want to break this backboard, so. One detail I found out later on was the door actually fits flush against that back piece. So I actually had to notch out the door where the Tech screws are sticking out. They stick out about 1/8 of an inch. So I had to notch that out about 1/8 of an inch where each of those hinges meet up with the door. So I did that with a jigsaw, just barely took anything off, like I said, about 1/8 an inch. And that way it isn't impeding on where that door closes. All right, got those in place. Okay guys, working at night here, trying to burn the midnight oil. So I just put these hinges on here. This will be the door behind the bed here for some extra storage. It'll also serve as a little extra added mattress space just against the wall. I'm a little nervous because these are really short, only about 1/2 inch screws to hold that in. But I figure I shouldn't be putting too much weight on that. If I end up needing to, I'll put bigger hinges on. It'll probably be a pain in the ass later, but I'm going to put these on just to see how it feels. Just using these 3/4 inch Tech screws to hold the hinges on here. Since it's just biting into this actual brace piece, I don't need anything bigger than this. There's nothing really behind here. A couple places like here I could maybe tap in, but this should do just fine. So I'll go ahead and get these in. Okay, so just kind of lifting it up and letting it rest on the actual hinge part. I'm just going to need to get a couple started and then I should be good to go. Last one here. Strip it out so it never comes out again. I mean, it's okay guys. It's got a little pitch to it up. Noticing some parts that are rubbing, but it feels pretty sturdy. Actually get some magnets on it, might be okay. Just to hold that down. Gives a little resistance. Holds up. We'll get something that'll hold it up too. Get a little bit of play. Might need to get worked in a bit. Okay, so there you go. Looks pretty good. So my idea is I might have to put like a foam layer that reaches the height of this. So an extra like 2 inches, you know, between here and here. Then that will flatten that all out. I shouldn't lose too much opening ability if I do that. I'll have to kind of play with it. I'm going to have an extra little strip of mattress that I'll be able to do on the mattress I'm planning on buying. So pretty happy with it. Allows for extra storage, obviously. You know, right now it does kind of pop up, so I'm gonna have to do something about that. It's just really hard with the curvature of the fan to get everything exactly right. I mean, I work so much with this, taking off little bits and pieces, but I think if I get some magnets down in here and it'll latch down in, it should be just fine. I don't want it rattling anyways, so it's gonna have to be something like that. So here you go. Be a nice little storage area. Put your skis in there, you know, bits and pieces, blankets, something like that. I've got the vent over there in the corner, it'll create like a passive draw when I have my fan on. So when I build this cabinet, I might have, something in here that'll be like a passive vent that'll just allow airflow to go through there. Would be nice though, having skis or anything like kind of wet in there that'll actually be able to blow air through there. So the next step is going to be getting this in place and then building out the extension. Okay, I got the panel cut. It's just a 1/4 inch maple. Um, I dry fit it, fits all in here nice. So I'm gonna throw a bead of silicone around here, underneath in here, just to eliminate rattling. This fits super tight, so I'm not too worried about that, but just up in here, up along there and up along there, down along here, there and there. So it'll just eliminate vibrations and stuff and just keep it a little more securely in place. And then I'll just use like a 3/4 inch flathead screw just to keep everything in place. I just used some cheap silicone for this step. You could use an adhesive silicone if you'd like. I just had this stuff lying around, and since I'm screwing in from the back into the panel to hold it in, I felt like that wasn't needed, and this is just going to be primarily used for vibration control. Just kind of putting it on an angle, working its way in. So we're just using these 3/4 inch. I pre-drilled all the holes and then used 3/4 inch Tech screws to tie everything into the main 2x4s, and then I just wiped out the squeeze out. I'm just gonna throw a few of the top in the slot up here with 5/8 inch, just a few. Hey, Bobber. So for this very top on the panel, I went on the inside to the outside to go into that little ridge, and that just made sure that I didn't have to come all the way through and poke through this side. Okay, since I'm not smart at all, I'm gonna go through and poly all of these slats just to give it a moisture barrier, because there is going to be moisture coming through the bed. Not sure why I didn't do that in the first place, so I gotta do that now. One more detail that I forgot to do, I gotta drill like a finger hole in here, so I'm doing like a 1.5 inch Forstner, and I just got a piece of wood clamped to the back so I reduce some blowout, and have to sand the inside and refinish it, put a couple coats of poly on, but that can dry as I do other things, so going to do that now. Okay, there we go. Yeah, pretty smooth cut. Just sand around the insides of that, clean this up. Throw some poly on there. I don't think I need to finish it really, but it'll give nice contrast, you know. Okay, got that sanded down, just some 220, cleaned everything up. Now, I think I'm going to put the bed in place after I get that little bit of poly in there. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. That will conclude this portion of the build for the bed frame. Now, I know it's kind of getting out of hand as far as how many parts there is for just building a bed, but there is a lot that goes into it, and I want to break it up into sections, so if people are doing something similar or if they want to replicate this, there's different sections with how I did this in order as far as how to make it the easiest so that you're not backtracking and trying to, take things back out and having to do them over again. I do that enough, so I just want to try to eliminate that. And on the next video, we're going to cover tying the bed down into the actual van floor. Also, we're going to do the piece that extends the bed out so that it becomes almost a full-size bed. It's a little bit smaller. And then also we're going to cover how I designed and cut the mattress to fit the bed frame that I built and how it can best work in that space. So thanks again. If you like these videos, please consider subscribing. There'll be a lot more coming. And if you have any questions or comments on how I did this, just drop a comment down below. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next one.